And that breaking news right now at noon, the judge overseeing the Georgia 2020 election interference case has just dismissed some of the charges against former President Donald Trump. I'm Lana Harris.
And I'm Rick Fulbaum. Now, most of the charges remain, but this news comes less than 24 hours after Mr. Trump became the Republican Party's presumptive nominee for president. Atlanta News First reporter Rebecca Schramm joins us live from the Fulton County Courthouse. Rebecca, you have the court order.
I do, Rick and Lana, and I've been pouring through it. It is important to note what you said, that most of the charges remain. But yeah, the judge in this case basically agreed with the attorneys for Trump and the other defendants that there's a fatal flaw in some of the other charges. In a court order, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee wrote that 6 of the many counts in the Georgia election interference case against former President Donald Trump and his co-defendants must be quashed. 3 of the charges being dismissed are against Trump himself. The charges in question involve alleged efforts by the defendants to solicit elected officials to violate their oaths of office, including 2 charges related to the post-2020 election phone call Trump made to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. In his order, McAfee writes that prosecutors erred in the wording of parts of the indictment, noting in part, as written, these 6 counts contain all of the essential elements of the crime, but fail to allege sufficient detail regarding the nature of their commission, i.e. the underlying felony solicited. And something else to keep in mind, the judge wrote that prosecutors can seek a new indictment on those charges he just dismissed. Now, all of this comes as we await the judge's decision on whether he will disqualify Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis over her romantic relationship with a special prosecutor in the case. The judge has said he will announce his decision on that by Friday. Live at the Fulton County Courthouse, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
Thank you, Rebecca. And you can read the entire order on our Atlanta News First app right now. We also have a full timeline of the 2020 election meddling investigation.